This was our living room just minutes after we got the keys, before we had time to think about colours or furniture or what the space could eventually become. It wasn't bad. It wasn't completely broken, but it didn't say anything about us yet. At that point, there was no plan and no clear vision, just the feeling that this room was going to matter, because it's where we're going to spend most of our time, and whatever we did here had to feel personal, comfortable, and a little bit brave. We started stripping things back before we really knew where we were going. There were ideas floating or even flying around, but nothing fixed, and a lot of decisions were made based more on instinct than experience. What we did know was how we wanted the room to feel. We wanted murals because we didn't want plain walls. We wanted hidden lighting because we didn't want to see where the light was coming from. We wanted future-proofing because we wanted to do this once and we wanted it done properly. And we were very sure that we didn't want the usual safe choices. No all-white walls, no flat greys, no rooms that look finished but don't really say anything. We wanted drama, but still warmth. And most importantly, we wanted it to feel like ours. The first proper decision was starting with the electrics, because the whole house needed rewiring and there was no avoiding it. Once the electricians were in, the living room stopped feeling like a space you could relax in and started feeling like a construction site, which, strangely enough, made it easier to commit to bigger changes. While everything was already open, we started thinking about insulation. The house is from the 60s, and we knew that if we were ever going to improve comfort and efficiency, this was the moment to do it. So, we decided to insulate the floor by lifting the floorboards. At the time, this felt like a sensible decision. We genuinely believed it would take a weekend. What we didn't fully appreciate was how much work was hiding underneath those boards. Every single one had to come up, the space underneath had to be prepared, insulation fitted, and then everything carefully put back together. We knew that we could have done all of this from underneath because there's a floor hatch, but we thought it would be easier and faster by lifting the boards. But we were committed, and actually, we're glad we did it that way. The floor is now solid. There are no gaps, no movement, no squeaks, and it feels better than it ever did before. It took far longer than expected, but this was one of those moments where the effort quietly paid off, even if we didn't realise it at the time. Once the floor was finished, we turned our attention to the walls, and this is where a lot of small, unglamorous work happened. There were cracks and gaps to fill, uneven sections to flatten, and plenty of experimenting with different fillers and plasters to see what actually worked. One particular experimentation was to use plasterboard tape to join the gaps instead of scrim. So far, so good with that experiment. There was a lot of mess, a lot of trial and error, a lot of sanding, more than we expected and more than we'd ever done before. At the same time, we started dealing with the door frame and the internal window, which had been painted badly in the past. Removing that paint turned out to be far harder than we thought, and this is where we experimented with chemical paint strippers and learned very quickly how stubborn old paint can be. It was slow, it was messy, and it was quite frustrating at times. But underneath all of that effort, we discovered that the windowsills were made of solid hardwood, probably even teak, and that completely changed how we felt about the job. Suddenly, it wasn't just about fixing mistakes, it was about revealing something that had been hidden for years, and that made all the effort feel worthwhile. When it finally came time to paint the walls, we chose to colour-drench the room in a light peach tone. We wanted warmth, and we wanted to celebrate the light that fills this room during summer, the summer evenings, especially at sunset. The timing, however, was not ideal. We had 48 hours to turn a chaotic building site into a clean, painted room because 2 sofas and 6 dining chairs were being delivered. Everything had to be planned carefully, and we had to work fast because there wasn't any room for delays. And then, halfway through, we realised the second tin of paint was the wrong colour.
Dead. Can I hear?
That moment introduced a level of stress that's hard to describe, because there was no flexibility left in the schedule.
Can you stop recording, please?
The furniture was coming whether we were ready or not. With a lot of rushing, a lot of problem solving, and more than a bit of panic, we managed to finish the painting and get the floor back down just in time for the delivery. It wasn't easy, but we managed.
That they can be delivered!
The murals were always meant to be the heart of the room. Even though the background is black, they bring in colour through the birds and the plants, and they completely change how the space feels. Installing them, though, was more stressful than it looks. It was a hot day, the glue was drying quickly, and we had to work fast without making mistakes. Aligning the panels turned out to be surprisingly difficult, most likely because the walls aren't particularly straight, which meant every adjustment had to be done carefully. And this was the first time we had ever installed murals, not to mention that they are not so cheap, these ones. One important decision we made was cutting the panels from the top rather than the bottom, because the most interesting part of the artwork is lower down. That meant extra measuring, extra care, and very little room for error. It was intense while we were doing it, but once everything was in place, the effect was exactly what we'd hoped for. After the murals were installed, the room finally had a clear direction, but something still felt unfinished. The walls had drama, colour, and movement, but the space needed softness to balance all of that, and that's where the curtains came in. Finding the right fabric turned out to be much harder than expected. We needed something that would sit comfortably next to the murals, not compete with them, and not dilute the atmosphere we were building. When we finally found the fabric we wanted, it became clear very quickly that having curtains made for us would cost a tiny fortune, and at that point it just didn't make sense. So instead of compromising on the fabric, we made a different decision. I decided to make the curtains myself. I had no previous experience, no shortcuts, and no guarantee that this would work, or that I could do it. What followed was a lot of measuring, a lot of careful planning, a lot of learning as things went along, and I won't hide it, a lot of tears. Mistakes were made, seams were redone, seams were undone and redone and undone and redone, and there were moments where it felt much easier to give up and buy something ready-made. But step by step the curtains came together. Making them ourselves didn't just save money, it saved hundreds. It gave us complete control over the final result. The length, the weight, the way the fabric hangs, and how it frames the murals were all exactly how we wanted them to be. When they were finally installed, they softened the room without taking away any of its character. They brought warmth, balance, and a sense of completion that you can't always buy. It was one of those moments where effort, again, quietly turned into something beautiful, and where doing it yourself didn't just make sense financially, but felt deeply satisfying. Lighting was never meant to be simple in this room. We wanted it hidden, subtle, and controllable by voice, without ever seeing the source of the light directly. We chose aluminium covings because they're slim, sturdy, and capable of hiding LED strips cleanly. However, aluminium is not an easy material to work with. The original plan was to use professional-grade LED wiring installed by the electricians with the controllers located near the distribution board, but that wiring simply didn't provide enough power, and nothing worked as expected. So, we changed the plan and we went with our original plan that we would have done before the electricians intervened. We removed the original cables and installed camera cables with suitable connectors, which meant undoing work that had already been done and spending an entire evening rerouting everything. Then came fixing the supports. We had to decide what distance to leave from the ceiling, which again, it's not flat and it ain't straight. So we made this tiny jig to help us out. After having marked everything, fixing the supports was just drill holes and screw them into place. The controllers were now hidden inside the wall in proper electrical boxes, so there are no visible cables, but they're still accessible if needed. After that came priming the aluminium covings, as we would then paint them with wall emulsion, cutting all corners by hand, fitting them. Okay, fitting them was not easy at all. We needed to find the right point on the supports and then click them into place. But as we said earlier, the walls are not straight, and as the covings were aluminium, they therefore needed some convincing. Having managed that, it was time for caulking and finally painting the covings the same colour as the walls. It took a long time and it wasn't easy, but when the lights finally came on, it felt like the room came together for the first time. Once the lighting was finished, the room finally had a mood, but it still didn't feel complete. This was the stage where everything needed to be tied together and where colour choices started to really matter. We replaced the original 1960s glazing with new clear glass. It's a small detail, but it changed how light moves through the space and made the whole room feel cleaner and sharper. We decided to paint it almost black, which felt like a bold move at the time, especially after spending so much effort removing the old paint and revealing the wood underneath. The idea wasn't to hide the window, but to frame it, and to let it sit comfortably next to the murals rather than compete with them. In reality, we decided to paint all woodwork and PVCs almost black. Choosing an almost black colour was a conscious decision. By this point we had committed to contrast, and we wanted the darker elements to frame the room rather than soften it. The architraves and skirting boards followed, and this was another moment where patience mattered. Getting clean lines, smooth finishes, and consistency across the room took time, but these details silently hold everything together. None of these design choices are particularly in or liked by everyone, but it's the difference between a room that looks finished in photos and one that actually feels complete when you live in it. The ribbed panels were one of the last major elements we added, and also one of the most deliberate decisions in the entire room. By this point, the space already had colour, lighting and contrast, but it still needed texture and depth. The panels started as rough MDF, and from the moment we unpacked them, it was clear they were going to need a lot of preparation. The machining was rough, and although our initial idea was to just hang them as they were, we decided that the colour needed to change. There was a lot of sanding, and not just on the flat surfaces. Every groove had to be worked carefully, by hand, using improvised tools just to get into the right shape. After that came priming and sanding again, and more priming, and more sanding. Because with this kind of surface, every imperfection shows. Choosing pure black for the final colour was intentional. At this stage, we didn't want another feature that demanded attention through colour. We wanted something that added depth, absorbed light in places, and made the rest of the room feel richer by contrast. Installing the panels was the moment when the room finally felt finished. They anchored the space, balanced the murals, and gave the lighting something to interact with. It was a lot of work for something that looks so simple, but that simplicity is exactly what makes it effective. When you're in the middle of a renovation, it's very easy to lose sight of how far you've come. You focus on what still isn't done, what needs fixing, and what went wrong along the way. Looking back at this living room now, it's hard to believe how many separate stages it went through, and how many decisions were made along the way, sometimes confidently and sometimes under pressure. There were moments where things took far longer than expected, moments where plans had to change, and moments where we questioned whether certain decisions were the right ones. But standing in this room now, it feels cohesive. The colours work together, the lighting does exactly what we had hoped it would, and the details we spent so long on quietly support the space rather than dominate it. The room isn't perfect, and it was never meant to be. What matters is that it feels like us, and that every part of it reflects the time, effort, and learning that went into it. This is the end of the living room, and it's the beginning of the rest of the house, with all the experience we gained here carrying forward into whatever comes next. Thank you for watching, and remember that if we can do it, you can do it.
Good boy. Kiss.